Hey guys, welcome back to a new What If here. Today we're doing potentially a series, of course if this one gets the most votes then this will become the series. Anyway, this is What If Naruto was kidnapped. And, well, yeah, if any of you sort of thinking that it would be like the other similarly What If Naruto was kidnapped type ones, not quite. I say not quite, I mean, or at least not quite for me, it could be very much in the massive opposite direction, so your mileage may vary on my word of not quite. Anyway, so Naruto would actually be 4 when he'd be kidnapped, and yeah, why? Well, because he'd just been not kidnapped, he'd just been kicked out of the orphanage and was kind of roaming around kind of somewhat the forest, of course, with the orphanage being pretty much surrounded by a forest somewhat with a single path, though of course by this point Naruto had, of course, had seen the glassnet that he'd gotten, which, well, yeah, of course he somewhat wouldn't really understand why and that, so he'd kind of avoid the path in which people kind of walk up and down that, and plus it was somewhat night, so you didn't know, like, would somebody similarly, take him back to the orphanage, or would they beat him up? He didn't know, so instead he'd kind of somewhat go into the forest, that plus, well, he could survive in the forest, somewhat. And yeah, though you'd end up wandering, well, it's through the forest up until a point where you'd just see a massive kind of wall. You'd stare at it and you'd start kind of following the direction. You'd decide in a sort of direction to go, and you'd follow that. And yeah, before you'd know, you'd kind of see kind of a much wider path, but also giant doors. And yeah, you'd somewhat kind of gulp at that, though he'd see a forest on the somewhat other end, and well, yeah, though as you'd get closer, you'd see 2 people. Those 2 people were similarly, well, kind of sleeping. It was night after all, even though there were somewhat guards. Yeah, and even though Naruto wouldn't really know what they kind of were, he knew, or at least his small kind of developing mind knew that they should be awake, not sleeping, though that was good for him because he'd be able to kind of stay in as best as he could within the shadows. He'd make it past somewhat the door and out the gates back into the other side of the forest, and yeah, he'd kind of wander somewhat through there, getting some somewhat similarly fruits and that, and yeah, though eventually you'd end up kind of hearing, you'd end up, or at least kind of smelling what kind of smelled like fire, or that, like a wood fire, somebody burning wood, as he'd kind of go in the direction, and before long he'd kind of see similarly just a camp, or well, just somewhat like fire with nobody kind of there, so as he'd somewhat come out, the next thing he'd know was a pain at the base of his neck, and then nothing, blackness. A person would simply kind of look at the person, yeah, and would just think, it's a child. Well, boss said he didn't really care if somewhat it was, be it children or adults. Though I believe he does prefer children, as they tend to be able to, of course, last a lot longer, and well, that, and if they are somewhat young enough, they tend to be able to kind of mold them in a direction. Well, I guess I'll just have to do my best to get him back. And yeah, it would be about a week. Well, yeah, it would take him about somewhat a week to get back to kind of place in which kind of child slash adult kind of labour somewhat was kind of used. Yeah, though of course during that time Naruto did spend about say 95-96% of the time asleep, and the time he spent awake was pretty much tied up to the point where he couldn't move at all. Because the person knew that you could only live obviously somewhat so many days without kind of drinking and or eating. So you would generally do about somewhat about every other day, somewhat without go or at least the you'd somewhat feed Naruto about every other day, and the same with water. And yeah. Anyway, though, somewhat they would arrive, and though of course Naruto would be knocked out, and the people would go, so another somewhat child to kind of somewhat help out. I see. Yes. The boss will be somewhat happy, though he seems a bit on the small side. It's kind of a nod, though he'd say that the boss did, state to bring either somewhat adult, potentially adult male, somewhat men, either that or somewhat kids. And yeah, though they would just nod and they would let him pass to see the somewhat the boss. And somewhat when he'd kind of go in, the boss would somewhat just look up as the doors would somewhat open, and once you'd walk in and go, you've better have brought someone. I have, boss. And somewhat and they would somewhat look over it and say, I see you've brought a child. Hi. They would somewhat simply just for him to kind of put him down, and somewhat he would, and kind of spin and somewhat turning him around. The boss would go, I said, he looks about 4. It's like, hi, you did say child. The boss would kind of somewhat sigh in annoyance as he'd go, I meant at least someone with around at least about 6 to 8 years old, not 4. He'd go, I'm just sorry, I can... No. And someone else go, I don't think so. We could always somewhat still use him. As the boss would go, what do you mean? He's like, yes, he's young, but if you remember, we've kind of got or at least they somewhat tiny young ones as well, somewhat about the same age as him, if not slightly younger and definitely older, that are trying, or that kind of have to try and pull a somewhat around somewhat try and have to pull a around about a ton of material somewhat around the place in a cart. So you think of how adding him into the somewhat pool of kids to pull that? Pulling push it. Every somewhat bit helps, and who knows, you may get strong enough to the point of where the kids and that can go off, and do obviously somewhat pull other somewhat carts, and you can slowly add more and more obviously weight to it as the child gets stronger and grows up. I see you. Well, you're lucky. And just somewhat passing this nod, and you'd go, and from there, that's what somewhat they'd be kind of doing similarly. And of course, Naruto being a or at least similarly somewhat semi-mysterious, though it somewhat initially kind of grown and that, and obviously moaned though the other similarly somewhat children that would warn him that if he keeps on complaining and even does somewhat bad things, then they will somewhat punish him. And well, yeah, and Naruto would somewhat mentally kind of somewhat scoff, punishment. Somewhat he, didn't really care. And yeah, though as similarly somewhat the months went on, or at least as a month somewhat went by, and well, yeah, of course he'd start truly somewhat playing up, which would cause the somewhat people to, or at least start start thinking of potential punishments. The initial one was going, or at least once they would be of course fed about every day, they would kind of reduce it to similarly one like every other day and stuff like that. Though eventually one would bring up that they could just silence him. Though the boss would shake his head, simply saying that he didn't obviously want to kill any of them. Though he'd go, I don't mean that, I mean, kind of destroy his voice box. They'd think he'd go, well, sure, talking is somewhat one thing, but moaning is just, well, moaning. It's somewhat useless. Plus, you still have his hands and that, and Rich will be able to somewhat do stuff, and they'd suddenly talk back and forward for some time, and or at least somewhat similarly, or at least one person would get in contact with someone else, and for they somewhat knew it, they would have a person who was kind of good with similarly modifying, or at least who was kind of somewhat wanting to experiment on potentially modifying humans. And yeah, though the first thing, or at least somewhat they would, or at least somewhat do, as he'd keep on being somewhat disrespectful, would pretty much remove his penis, and of course remove his they would castrate him. If he was going to play up, they were going to remove it. And yeah, of course when that would somewhat end up waking up, he would obviously feel somewhat funny and slightly lighter down below, and while looking below he couldn't believe it, his thing was gone. They were telling the truth, and well, yeah, it'd kind of be good for about a couple of weeks, say 2-3 weeks, maybe even a month, before he'd once more start playing up once more. Though, and yeah, though eventually they'd at least had somewhat to a point where they would just kind of somewhat actually with a somewhat metal strap, just kind of or at least a somewhat almost custom-made object, pretty much keep his hands behind his back at all times. Pretty much he couldn't move them at all. And yeah, and that, and plus also somewhat had a hook on it, and which meant well, yeah, they could just hook him obviously up to the carts, and the others could obviously push it whilst he'd be very much in the front. And well, yeah, pretty much mean that most of, or at least a lot more of the weight would be going through him instead of the others. Though it wouldn't obviously, it would be almost similar a year would similarly pass. Though as it got closer, as the end of the year got closer and his birthday got even closer, he would start similarly somewhat playing up, as obviously they would, or at least somewhat kind of enunciate the day, and yeah, in which he'd kind of somewhat remember his birth date, and well, yeah, of course he somewhat wanted to kind of, well, or at least the village now was looking more like a saint, and he kind of regretted kind of leaving through the big doors. And yeah, so he'd try and the last thing he'd somewhat remember was trying to similarly somewhat run away, do a somewhat runner though. And yeah, Haki, though he'd somewhat end up somewhat kind of waking up with a somewhat groan as his head would be somewhat throbbing. He couldn't remember somewhat what happened, and yeah, though he'd somewhat hear similarly the voice of obviously the boss, and though he'd go, well, you've been a similarly bad person, and so with that we binded your arm, and we were going to eventually, if you was good enough, let you have your arms once more, but you've been so bad enough that we've decided to permanently remove them. Though we'd go somewhat wide, he'd look to his hand and go, of course you still see your SWAT, though they're still in the way be there, they're just not exactly there. In other words, we've pretty much, or at least cut your hands and a good chunk of your arms off to permanently somewhat to keep them behind you. And yeah, you'll never be able to separate your arms again, as your arms are pretty much joined together as one. And of course, as that, we've also put a metal, a circular metal somewhat bar in it, at least somewhat through your skin, so that of course you can store all the stuff in that. And also I'd kind of decided that with all your seemingly moaning and that, we've also of course got rid of your voice, as you're probably only now realising that you can't speak. Though that's not the only thing. If you are to somewhat pull your legs out of those sheets, you are to somewhat know you don't have feet no more. Though we of course did put your feet in somewhat hoofed shoes, though we kind of gave up with that as it seemed you still didn't care. So, well, what's the next step after that? Well, why not making your feet exactly that, hooves, horses to be precise. So that's what your feet are now. Your feet are nothing more than simple hooves from a horse. Continue to be bad, and well, we'll continue. We'll do some more. We'll do. Well, I've got at least one more thing you can perform. And yeah, it goes from there. Naruto would always be good for about a month or two, though, of course, with everything it would come similarly to an end with that, though the punishment was pretty much, well, would end up similarly somewhat waking up with the inability to not move any part of herself. And yeah, though it would only be similarly somewhat hours later when she'd end up hearing the boss's somewhat voice. And yeah, though one thing was for sure, he didn't know why, but his legs, in between his legs, just burned. He just wanted it to kind of disappear, to go away. And yeah, in others they'd pretty much after somewhat similarly drugging his food, they'd proceed somewhat to inject him with or at least somewhat with an injection that would pretty much make anyone, no matter the age, very much horny. And yeah, so that's why. And yeah, before you'd realise, it would end up having something shoved in between his legs. And yeah, though as time would go by, of course, as Naruto somewhat couldn't speak, she'd slowly started to kind of somewhat started truly kind of acting more, or at least somewhat similarly like the rash, just boiling stuff. Though of course the occasional somewhat slip up, though there's that, though her punishment kind of went from being somewhat a punishment to kind of being almost somewhat the reverse, and being almost somewhat reward, as Naruto had, or at least had so much seemingly sex or rape that it had pretty much became, or at least something that Naruto almost strived to do with them. Realizing it, they decided to seemingly do something else, though I think that was just somewhat seemingly the end of it. As for seemingly somewhat Naruto, it kind of was, as she was finally starting to act more seemingly, just pulling stuff around and doing what she was told. While some of the others, especially some of the more, of course, adult ones that had been there for years and years, like a man in his somewhat 20s who very much had been castrated at around the age of somewhat 6. And though of course with similarly the person somewhat being there, though of course after similarly somewhat succeeding with Naruto and similarly adding somewhat hooves to a human body, or at least though the somewhat bastard obviously kind of similarly somewhat moaned that this person was always kind of being a somewhat pain, and he'd thought about just doing what he did with Naruto, though the person would go, well, or at least with Naruto, though they wouldn't know his, or well, now her name. Though I'd go, well, somewhat, how about this? See, of course, I managed to, of course, get hooves onto her, be somewhat nod, though you're planning something different. Well, how about we make him before, I guess, her, as you've castrated him, on all fours. You mean pretty much like a horse? Exactly, you'd walk exactly like a horse. He would have no arms, no legs. Instead, he would just have hooves. I'd go, you mean pretty much taking the horse's legs and just pretty much put them onto his body? Well, yes. If they misbehave that badly, then yes. Though I do have another idea, but though that can be for maybe someone who's very bad. They'd somewhat nod, and that's what he'd give the green light, and so next thing that person knew, or at least a week or two later, waking up pretty much on exactly like the person done. It was a surprise, somewhat also a success as well. And though similarly like Naruto, they would make sure the person became mute. And though that wouldn't obviously be the last person affected, as some obviously some caused obviously more issues than others. Death, obviously some got more harsher punishments, just like either person, though, or at least one was, or at least caused so much kind of destruction, seemingly somewhat destruction, that the person stated that he just kind of, or at least was straight up, going to kill him in the next couple of days. So he said, though the person go, well, if you'd like, I can, or at least try one thing. And the person was like, what's that? What, like strap his head to a horse's body? Exactly. He'd just kind of start him, and he'd go. And the person realised, some of the similarly kind of crazy person was truly honest. And after all, the only noise they would be able to produce is what horses can. The only thing they'd be able to eat is grass, and that's what horses eat. And no, it's kind of up to you. You can either as a male or female. And though as kind of similarly from that phrase would go by, Naruto had pretty much kind of fully just somewhat adjusted any thoughts of kind of how running away was long since gone. And yeah. And of course that also means she'd be 8 years old. So yeah, though of course some of the though similarly some of the adults, or at least once they turned similarly, or at least the kids / teenagers when they turned about similarly 15 to 20 years old, depending on how much similarly bad stuff they have done, depending on certain punishments. Yeah, it's like the maximum for at least a 4 to around 15 was pretty much what Naruto practically somewhat, at least was similarly, or at least a similarly kind of somewhat a person with hooves for legs and somewhat similarly no hands. It was just kind of just together at the back. Though similarly kind of obviously flowed that, and obviously everything through that, so just pulled. And yeah, one benefit of that, or at least similarly for her and only, was that she could pull a heavy amount hack. Within some 3 years, she had no more, or at least known the similarly pulling the pushing or pulling the cart, and yeah, actually it was about similarly almost, about nearly, nearly so much second year when she'd started really being able to pull it all by herself, a single ton by herself, and before she knew it, by the third year of being similarly kidnapped and in this odd form, she could easily pull up to nearly somewhat 2.5 or 3 times up a 30-40 degree slope. And yeah, though with obviously people always, or at least somewhat the people always pushing her to pull up more and do obviously somewhat harder, she pushed her body to its limit and beyond constantly. So by the time she was 8, she could pull up to nearly 10 tons. Well, more like kind of 8 tons at around a 35 to 40 degree sort of angle. And yeah, though of course that was the sharpest similarly hill somewhat they, or at least had to pull up. The others was about a somewhat similarly 20 and then 10, and obviously flat ground, so 0 if not -1 or that. And with at a 10 degree angle, she can pull about 10 to 11.5 tons, and pretty much at 0 you're looking at about 12 tons. And though and a lot of the people that kind of massively misbehaved, causing either potential delays to certain kind of deliveries, be it coal, iron, or somewhat gold, materials like that, or even somewhat stone. For similarly, or at least for some other stuff, if they cause delays, depending on somewhat that, also somewhat punishment. So a lot of people kind of got the similarly head strapped to horse body, somewhat treatment. Others as well also got the simple the removal of both arms and legs, and pretty much just became, at least similarly, a human body with 4 horse legs, or hooves, whatever you'd call them. And though Naruto, of course, really similarly couldn't care. And though I'm sure of course he could always think and while she, or at least never had thoughts about running away or that, again, she was kind of curious about the somewhat outside world. She'd always been somewhat curious. And yeah, she was also similarly wondering about her potential, or at least some potential new body when she would eventually turn 16 years old. As some of the men and even the boss had stated that she may get a new, somewhat potential body when she turns 16. And yeah. And, well, of course she somewhat wondered what that was, though. Of course, most of the time, if she did a good job, of course, she'd, or at least some men would obviously somewhat use her to relieve themselves, and for her, of course, it brought some amount of pleasure. And yeah, though, yeah. Anyway, though, similarly 2 more years would somewhat come by, and by then, Naruto really, was just purely focused on simply doing his best job as she could, and by now she could once more simply almost pull up to 20 tons, or about 16 tons up a 40-degree slope, and then a somewhat 10-degree slope about 18 to 19 tons, and on flat ground you're looking at about 20 to 21 tons. And yeah, the one thing kind of the men had somewhat found out, she seemingly, or at least for some odd reason, her seemingly somewhat pussy had a kind of unique, seemingly elasticate, somewhat stretchiness to it, to the point in which she could even, or at least take in a somewhat, granted not whole, but she could indeed take in a horse's cock. And yeah, they mainly found that out due to kind of having to somewhat move areas with seemingly the mind slightly, or at least somewhat not exactly running out, mainly due to the fact there were, or at least seemingly shinobi coming, not somewhat were starting to find the place, and obviously kidnappings and where the kids would somewhat come, so they of course needed to somewhat move. And one horse was kind of, or at least some horse body human head was, or at least currently, or at least similarly somewhat relieve as the person had similarly gotten somehow horny. And though of course, though the similarly only, or at least one that seemed to be similarly willing to potentially try and relieve it was Naruto, and before they knew it, she had kind of similarly completely slipped, or at least allowed it to go completely in. So they pretty much quickly, as the though granted they were at least a day, though a day to them could, or for shinobi, could easily be a couple of minutes to an hour depending on their rank. And anyway, though Naruto would be simply standing in similarly a kind of somewhat horse shed. Why? Well, because she rarely, or at least by the time she was about 6 years old, so about a year, somewhat with her feet with hooves, she, or at least kind of had a somewhat similar internal instinct to just kind of sleep upright, and whilst it was somewhat slightly hard for her, she'd eventually gotten very much obviously used to sleeping upwards to the point of where she couldn't sleep downwards. Sure, somebody obviously could knock her out and obviously lay her flat, but she just couldn't. Simply something just instinctually told her to just stay upright. And anyway, though, so they pretty much, or at least deciding to, or at least somewhat, use less space, gave her pretty much a horse stalling, which she was more than, fine with. And, yeah, of course. So with that, of course, and that being about 6 years since Naruto ever had his haircut. Obviously, her hair had grown out and had grown out to the point of where it was pretty much down by her butt. And yeah, those who'd occasionally think about obviously seeing some obviously kids with hands, and even similarly somewhat adults who had listened from somewhat day one, somewhat with hands and that, of course did make us somewhat jealous. Heck, even the thought of potentially having, or at least even somewhat potentially just having, actually human feet had somewhat amused her occasionally, but yeah, though she'd end up somewhat similarly hearing some voices as her eyes would go somewhat flutter open. Yeah, it was similarly, though, somewhat similarly just a dream one where she could just be, or at least similarly just a somewhat similarly, or at least a somewhat free child somewhere, out there in the world with somewhat parents and, kind of not hair pulling, but, massive amounts of weight around every day, though at the same time, with every time she pulled, or at least much more heavier weight than what they expected her to be able to do, they tended to be quite generous, with obviously showing somewhat her either a good time or even just letting some horses kind of go at her with having sex. And yeah, though she'd also somewhat wonder if maybe they were here to simply use her for that. Though, though unknown to her, or at least similarly two voices she could hear were in fact two shinobi, and shinobi from Konoha. They'd been somewhat sent on a mission as due to the fact seemingly some potential, or at least somewhat iron, coal and gold and that, or at least seemingly mined which some places great from had reported that or at least some people somewhat internally from some of those places had reported that had reported about these similar practices, and so the village had sent similarly to Shinobi to investigate and to potentially wipe out similarly the people in charge and that, and free the similarly prisoners and that. And whereas the people someone did so, they'd seen obviously kids with either somewhat, or at least either kids with pretty much their hands similarly just obviously somewhat just together. So pretty much what I mean by that is if you just say put your hands on somewhat on top of somewhat one another, well, that'd be somewhat kind of shoulder, so you're whereas somewhat similarly, say like where your hands will be say somewhat hanging beside your body, though kind of lift them up to hold one another, but keeping that similarly shoulders kind of similarly stored down. And the parts in which wouldn't though similarly the hands and up to a certain hands all up to a certain point would just be somewhat removed, as they'd then be kind of joined in the middle with a ring, as I said, going in the middle. That ring was made out of it was made mainly out of somewhat adamantine, a metal that pretty much was obviously incredibly strong, very good for obviously someone pulling a large amount of weight, but also when chocolate was sent through it, it could obviously get rid of any and all rust. Heck, it didn't even rust if a constant supply of chocolate was sent into it. And, well, yeah. Another thing about it is if it was, or at least something in somewhat Naruto's case, due to, or at least somewhat her own body and somewhat the fox, that, or at least kind of the similarly metal had a constant, somewhat small amount of drain on her somewhat body, on her somewhat chocolate supply, which she obviously wouldn't know about. And yeah, as the fox would, or at least I'd somewhat believe that, if they, or at least potentially had to, obviously, if that simply broke, they would obviously have to cut her arms in half, remove them out, and then put a new one in, and then reattach them, and which could potentially kill her. So instead, he somewhat made her chocolate network just attached to it to feed a smaller amount of chocolate into it, so that of course, as it would get near its breaking point, or at least it never would, because chocolate was constantly flowing into it, so the more similarly pressure somewhat was exerted upon it, the more chocolate was sent in to keep it from obviously breaking. And yeah, anyway, though the people would kind of go through, and they would obviously somewhat paralysed. They would see obviously children like that, from even children with just similarly somewhat hoofs to also similarly, teens with both their legs and arms like horses. And heck, yeah, though as they would see the somewhat stores, they would kind of somewhat tell one another they hope that they're just simply horses still on mid-state. Similarly, like how the others have been, I'd probably say they won't, and that'd be true there. While pretty much, all of the body would be horse, even the neck, and of course the only part that wouldn't be would be the head, and they're just somewhat paralysed. They would go through, though. The one thing they would similarly somewhat agree on was somewhat killing them. Their body was pretty much gone at that point. So they just somewhat kill, the person slash, somewhat the person, so the person obviously could move on to the afterlife, and the horse that was also probably in the afterlife could, have its body as well. And yeah. Though eventually they would end up simply opening somewhat one, or at least though opening finally reaching the end, in which was Naruto's. Though the only thing different about Naruto's with obviously them was that, or at least somewhat due to Naruto obviously somewhat having a ring, so they tended to somewhat tie her to the back, so she couldn't exactly simply go anywhere. That and the back of the building was somewhat reinforced concrete to a high degree, enough somewhat reinforcement that she couldn't actually go anywhere. She did try once, mainly, or at least because her boss slash master had told her to, though she didn't go anywhere. And yeah, though the only thing she knew was her somewhat shoulders just ached. And yeah, actually, even, or at least though her obviously somewhat arms always just been seemingly somewhat locked down, which had obviously somewhat seized up, the muscles in them had completely petrified, and the only ones that hadn't were the ones to deal with somewhat that. And her muscles, or at least around somewhat the top, while it's at least the ones to handle kind of seemingly side to side movement had petrified to keep them. The only ones that hadn't was the ones to deal with kind of rotating the arms up and down, though even those were pretty much practically pretty much thin. The only thing they really were there for was just to seemingly stop them from really going up and down, and even then the muscles were pretty much useless as they did. Seemingly, though, there was enough muscle there that it, or at least somewhat, as she'd when somewhat walking at, or at least the hook would be always kept from constantly widely going up and down. In other words, her body could obviously somewhat go up and down, though the hook somewhat wouldn't. It'd move slightly, but the rest of the cartoonette wouldn't, pretty much lowering noise overall, and of course especially somewhat metal on metal noise. And yeah, and though the people would somewhat pell, the people would always the two somewhat shinobi, or at least the one that would crack it open would push it open. They would they'd push the top or these doors open, leaving the bottom ones shut. And that would somewhat momentarily shut her eyes, though it would somewhat slowly open, somewhat allowing her eyes to obviously get adjusted to the somewhat blinding light. And the two people in front of her, she immediately knew weren't obviously from around here. Maybe they were somewhat new. No, they weren't. She knew they weren't new. Or at least something inside her told her they weren't new. Maybe they would let her free. What was being free? Yeah. Would they want to use her? Would they take her to maybe a different place? Yeah. Though one would somewhat though after that somewhat seemingly shock, one would somewhat whisper to the other, and the other would kind of go wide-eyed eyes looking at the person, definitely somewhat face. They would somewhat kind of go back a bit and would kind of whisper to one another, "It's him. It's the child the Hokage had been looking for 6 years now." And we must somewhat report that with find him right now, and I'd probably suggest him bringing a somewhat medic in. The other somewhat shinobi would just nod, both being obviously joining, so they wouldn't hate the nine-tailed the Shaker of the nine-tails, and person would just nod and would run back to Kanha as fast as they could. It'd been about been pretty much nearly a day's journey. Though, well, no, not even a day's journey. It would be about an hour or so. Though it'd be about similarly 2 to potential 3 hours later. Though, of course, during those hours, the person had continued to somewhat look around, and the kids that seemed completely normal. Somewhat did, but he told them that they would be somewhat let free after some people come to chat to make sure they were all okay. And even obviously some of the adults, though most of them kind of just looked at him completely confused, which was though the person was kind of somewhat confused at the looks of confusion. Surely they knew what freedom was, right? Or were they actually children and they'd been doing this for so long that the children had grown into actual adults? That had kind of filled the person with just kind of a disgust and feeling, and Anyway, though the Hokage, the third Hokage, aka Hirusa Toby, would somewhat come as well, the village leader, and also a somewhat very much a actual Anbu ranked level, a Anbu medic nin, so an Anbu member, so someone who only kind of reports to and receives commands by the Hokage. That, and the person was also a medic thing. very much satisfied field-based medicine. And yeah, of course, the second person I'd mentioned, they'd simply found Naruto, though. Yeah, though, of course, though when someone they'd arrive, they'd feel, yeah, though, of course, on the way there, the two had been kind of briefed by the third person, and he was gonna just almost felt awful, though he'd ask if they knew, or at least somewhat, what they'd done to Naruto's body, and the person would kind of shake his head, simply stating that second they saw the somewhat face, the 3 risk marks, and the somewhat eye colour, immediately, or at least somewhat after a bit of discussion, came to report to you. Yeah. From what I've seen, I don't know. I haven't seen her arms, so I'd presume they'd be like some of the other children. Yeah. Though what about her? Though you said similarly some of the children also had those feet, right? High. Do you think? Well, considering the fact she was in a barn, or Kai-sama, I'd probably say most likely. And yeah, though he'd just somewhat nod, and yeah, when the third would, when someone third would obviously come, they would go to the barn which the other person would be at. And after meeting up with the Hokage, they would go down, and yeah, they would ask if he tried to speak to someone from Naruto. The person would nod and would state that, well, at least though he'd state that it seems like he can't, she can't speak. Then someone look at him. She's got a, what every other woman has, or gal at the age of, someone has. And someone didn't undergo, they castrated him. And yeah, he was in mood somewhat filled with some rage, and he'd tell the two to go through the person's, or at least somewhat paperwork, to find what obviously they potentially done. And yeah, though he'd say that, or at least he'd simply found a somewhat number, someone, or at least I'd found somewhat a number actually on the door. And yeah, though they'd go off with obviously that number somewhat in mind, as they'd thought, well, if she had no name and hadn't, verbally told them her name, and she could potentially have spoke, or at least had the ability to speak, then they'd probably just have a name or number as a name. And though the magazine would kind of go in and out, would somewhat slightly walk back, though the magazine would put up her arms and would state that she wasn't here to harm her, she was just here to make sure she was okay. Though she just Naruto would kind of stall, obviously, who would just be wary and fully on guard. And yeah, though Hiruzen would kind of, Hiruzen would somewhat, or at least kind of ask if she could move forward, and Richard just simply stepped to her side, kind of showing that she was obviously bound to the wall with a sort of rope connecting the metal ring that went obviously very much through the middle of her conjoined hands. And yeah, though the maintenance would immediately cut with a kunai, and from there she'd somewhat step out, and yeah, the maintenance would kind of do obviously someone check using medical ninjutsu, and would be surprised, stating that someone who's had that the Husan that had to be there for quite some time. She would ask what she meant by that, and she would state at least potentially 2-3 years. Okay, some of the same with her hands, at least that if not longer, and things were just somewhat pale. And yeah, though she would go up to the somewhat of Natu's somewhat voice box and somewhat voice box and somewhat pale as, and she'd tell the Hokage that she'd never be able to speak. And yeah, though Pilsen would kind of similarly somewhat talk to her, or at least where she was born in Rich, and kind of, or at least, they'd see that, or at least where Hilson mentioned that he knew where she was born, and that had immediately obviously got her somewhat, well, not exactly on guard, but had kind of somewhat shocked her, and they could see, or at least Hilson could especially see the want for information in her eyes. And yeah, so Hilson would mentally sigh in relief. At least she could still think. And yeah, and someone would obviously tell her, where she was born, the village and that. And when you'd ask her if she remembered anything, she'd just shake her head. Yeah, though after similarly half an hour or so, the two would come back stating that they had found stuff and would just give it to Hilson, stating that they'd ordered it from the stuff that had been done first to the more recent stuff. Hilson would kind of crack an eyebrow and would go through it, similarly marking down, as it would state, some of the punishments that had obviously somewhat had gone through, and obviously the potential, and what Naruto had done to kind of receive said punishment. And Hilson would, Hilson just obviously very much couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe that Naruto, though obviously having it was very much in front of him. Though he'd, or at least told the Magnin to go with the two other someone should someone like Ato and Kage-sama, as he'd somewhat whisper to her, the building some distance out of, or at least kind of out of I'll have some Anbu, or at least to somewhat go there. I'll have one of the shinobi to get some Anbu to go there. Just go, so you mean in high, trying to, get it to be set up, so though we maybe could potentially try and somewhat revert her back. Should look at the front guy, potentially I could revert her hands. What about her feet? I wouldn't really want to kind of try those, as obviously they kind of affected the centre of our balance, and whereas somewhat human feet would be able, or at least would cover much better at obviously somewhat seemingly high speed, and also somewhat slightly better at obviously being able to pull somewhat heavier weights and heavier stuff and that. You see, well, with similarly 5 years with hooves as her feet, I would say potentially be somewhat, it'd be more damaging to remove them. Though Hilson would just somewhat sigh, though he'd nod, and though the somewhat the Anbu Magnin would go back with the two shinobi. And though of course Hilson hadn't just come with just the single Anbu Magnin, of course he'd have his Anbu guard with him as well. Anywhere he went they had to follow somewhat, and so they, though he'd somewhat tell her to kind of come, as he'd state that they'd at least would somewhat be going home. That, and it of course, or at least somewhat to slightly tear up, though she'd seem to just nod, and due to though about an hour and a half later, of course they'd just be somewhat walking. So though in Ambu, or at least would kind of somewhat, or at least would ask, though Hazen would somewhat to think about potentially seeing how fast she could run. They had some distance to go, so maybe, so after somewhat bit of mulling it over his head, they would ask Naruto to kind of run. Naruto would just kind of look at him and quack her head to the side in somewhat confusion. So Hazen would just would just kind of start somewhat speeding up, and for long he'd state that this is somewhat jogging, and before obviously long they'd be out to low gaining speed, and he'd say now this is somewhat running. Okay, when I say somewhat run, I mean to obviously go faster. Otherwise would someone go somewhat wide and should just nod up and down, understanding now what he meant, and he'd go, now then, how about we see who can get there somewhat fast? Now then, let's see, who or at least somewhat was somewhat faster, yeah. So no, they would from there, but no, you wouldn't say any of that. Really? Nah, just forget that. Though they would, or at least he would slowly somewhat increase his speed from walking to jogging to running, and to his surprise, Naruto was keeping up, and before long they were into jonin speed, and before somewhat long his Armbu had gone from kind of somewhat walking around him to jumping from treetop to treetop to keep up. And heck, even he had to start using chakra into his feet, as they were at low Hokage level speed. And though Naruto obviously someone would, or at least kind of be enjoying just the freedom and the speed in which she could obviously get up to the point where she'd end up feeling a somewhat slight tug, and she'd kind of somewhat look to her side, or at least somewhat back, and Hazen would tell her to somewhat slow down a bit. She'd kind of blink, and she'd somewhat realise that she was obviously somewhat starting to outpace the person Hiruzen, and if she outpaced him, well, she wouldn't know where she'd be going, so she'd kind of slow down to keep in line. Hiruzen was of course very much hesitant to actually kind of, or at least kind of somewhat tug on the somewhat metal shore, somewhat it being, or at least from what he'd seen, Naruto could move. Naruto could move a slight turn of weight, but he didn't know if it was, he didn't know how much force he had to put behind it, and it potentially he'd figured he could put more than what kind of 18, 20, about say 20, 21 tons of weight was. Anyway, though unknown somewhat to him, even though the Magnin had done a somewhat once over, she'd mainly done a kind of check, not more of a kind of just somewhat health check to make sure everything was kind of okay, and not a more thorough somewhat check in which did take a lot longer. And if she'd done so, well, the Ambu Magnin would have realised that, or at least somewhat the actual ring itself was encased in bone, pretty much. So it was something the fox had done because, somewhat just having seemingly muscle or skin around it to keep it from moving was kind of bad, so the fox had or at least had somewhat made it so it had actual bone around it, and which meant that obviously, of course, as weight increased, obviously the force on the bone did as well, so the bone got obviously stronger to handle the force So the more weight, the stronger bone or actual bones got. And yeah. Anyway, though before long, she'd somewhat, or at least, well, yeah, Houston would somewhat start slowing down, and she'd realise that as he'd start similarly, she'd start obviously going in front of him, so she'd also start slowing down as well. Yeah, though before long they would similarly somewhat stop, well, yeah, they would also somewhat turn as well, and before long they would stop outside of a somewhat similarly building. Well, it didn't look abandoned, though ironically it had been abandoned some sort of years ago. And yeah, it was a building, some building in a somewhat in a kind of hill. Well, yeah. Well, it was less of building, more of an actual underground. Well, less labyrinth, and it was more pretty much Orochimaru's kind of hideout. Yeah, one of his somewhat older men who's in, or somewhat, well, yeah, he was in slash kind of Gikashid. Had seen obviously the experiments and that in which Orochimaru had conducted. And obviously that's when, he was an admired Orochimaru as an S rank missing nin. Yeah. So instead of someone to kind of reuse that place, though, hopefully for a place to kind of potentially, get Naruto suddenly some arms again, potentially that, and also maybe potentially feet as well, or at least the ability to once more speak. And yeah. And with that, I'm going to end this part here, guys. So if you have enjoyed this what if, do tell me in the comments down below. And there is one more Friday that will be obviously coming out. So yeah, guys, hope you guys and girls have a good day or night, depending on wherever you are and whenever you watch this. And good